We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
Hey, this is Raven. Welcome to the Supernatural Hour. I forgot what we were doing.
This is Chad. Welcome to the Supernatural Hour also.
And this is Emmett, who's just happy to be here.
He's probably the only one of us that can talk right now. Holy cow.
And it takes effort sometimes, too, lately.
Yeah, Jess and Doc can't be with us tonight, so we will see them later.
All right, so before the junk drawer, everybody, I want to remind you about Supernatural Hour swag at advancedparanormal.com, which is your only source for your advanced paranormal needs. Check it out.
And they've got all sorts of things. I'm sitting here looking at our Supernatural Hour banner, which is very cool.
It is a tapestry. Thank you.
The tapestry.
Any new products on there lately you want to talk about? Or
You know, I haven't seen any lately because I haven't looked at it lately, and I haven't personally added anything lately.
They will put basically the logos and the different things on just about anything you want out of their collection of shirts and hats and tapestries and pens and whatever. You can pretty much have anything you want that they offer, logoed with Supernatural Hour.
Right. So
cool.
The last time I remember being on there, I think I basically clicked we wanted our logo available on everything that they offered.
Yeah, mugs.
So if they don't have it, I mean, if it's not there, they don't have it.
Yeah.
You
I need to get a magnet.
You didn't click on toilet plungers, did you?
Sure.
I'm going to get a magnet, I think. That sounds like a great idea. Have a collection.
Ooh, that's nice. Get a t-shirt, too.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I got one. I thought I did.
I have a hoodie.
I have two
Do I
of your
have one of
t-shirts.
those at your house?
Yes, you have two shirts here. I've been waiting to send, and I thought, you know what?
Yeah.
You'll probably be back here before you need them again. So
Yeah.
Oh.
One might be Supernatural Hour.
I'll send them to you. You can wear them. Yeah, next podcast.
Thanks.
Okay, so our junk drawer. Do you guys know what a broken spectre is?
No.
It's also called an anti-corona. So what happened is there was a man from the UK, and he thought he saw a ghost after he spotted a dark figure while scaling a mountain. So he's climbing a mountain, looks up, thinks he sees a ghost. Anyway, it took him some time, but he figured out what it is. So, he kind of said this really redefined having a spiritual experience in nature. So his name is Thomas Swallow. He's from Manchester, and he said he was taken back a little bit. He said it was a weird, surreal, and a really beautiful moment, which occurred November 13th. It didn't say what year. He was on a 40-mile hike with some friends. They were at the great end.
That sounds awful.
On a 40-mile, yeah, it does actually.
It's a long time. It's a long hike.
It does. I'm like the anti-hiker, anti-camper. I don't mind a little hike.
Miles were shorter in those days.
I don't know. But they were at the great end in the Lake District. The Lake District is, if I remember right, it's like where Beatrix Potter did her
Drawings.
Her drawings and stuff was up in the Lake District. Beautiful. So he's 39 years old. He had reportedly summited a 2,990-foot peak, which sounds really high, except that my driveway is at about 5,000 feet. So,
yeah, but when you're coming from sea level, that's pretty good.
Yes. He was ahead of his buddies, and he was overlooking what he described a gully when he looked to see a figure floating in the sky, and it kind of creeped him out. And there's actually pictures of this on the internet. And it kind of freaked him out at first because he was thinking, am I seeing Christ reappearing? what is going on here? And he said, I was in the moment and enjoying it, thinking I've never seen anything like this before. And he was actually kind of awestruck. And he took a whole bunch of photos because he wanted to try to capture this, before the figure vanished. But actually, it turns out that the so-called sky spirit is an optical illusion called a broken spectre, also known as an anti-corona. And this occurs when the observer's shadow is reflected onto the clouds or mist below their vantage point. It usually happens on overcast days when the sun is kind of low. And he said it was a cloudy day, so the clouds were moving in and out of the summit. I could see moisture particles in the air when I looked up and saw my shadow in the middle of a rainbow. Because when you look at the pictures on the internet, there's like the figure of a man, and then there's kind of a rainbow around it. It's really kind of pretty.
And I've heard of this effect before. It really is beautiful, and it can be photographed.
Yeah, and he's got pictures of it online. That's really cool. So he called the experience spiritual and surreal. And he says it's still, he says it's been a while, but I still get kind of a buzz thinking about it because he says it's something that doesn't happen very often. It's
I just
actually
looked it
kind of
up.
rare.
It's really creepy looking.
Mm-hmm.
It's looks like Bigfoot surrounded by a rainbow.
Yep.
It's so scary.
Yep.
Wow.
And they said in the same article, it says an Australian man was left shaken after bone-chilling closed CCTV footage appeared to show his pet pooch with a ghost dog in his backyard. But they said it's kind of the same phenomenon. So there you go.
Interesting and cool.
So, ghost chickens, ghost specters in the sky, all kind of the same thing.
Ghost chickens.
Have you ever heard that song, Ghost Chickens in the Sky?
No.
Yeah.
One of our older podcasts, I don't think we sang it, but we quoted the words to Ghost Chicken in the Sky. You've heard the song Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Of course, it's a standard.
Yeah. Well,
I don't really recall.
So, Ghost Riders, there's words for ghost chickens.
Nice.
Bok, 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 bok.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to go there. Okay, so we have Velma. She was able to pop on. Better late than never.
Hello.
Welcome, Velma.
Thanks for
About
having me.
We're glad you could make it.
Thank you. So, I pulled a random type of card for my crystal today, and it was fluorite. And I was like, this is I do need this. So it has concentration, protection, and emotional stability. And I think a lot of us need some emotional stability these days.
Oh, right.
I know I do. So it's these are highly spiritual vibrations and can shield you from negative influence or a person that is causing you emotionally imbalanced stuff. And being in the classroom,
the fluorite at him, right? You hit him in the head with the fluorite.
Yeah. As as a teacher, sometimes I'm like, oh, I need a lot of emotional instability in this classroom from these children.
Or maybe you just need a lot of stones to throw.
Yeah, just throw them.
Teacher, why is there a rock on my desk? Just shush.
I just taught rocks and minerals, so there you go. Know that you are surrounded by love and light, it says, and trust in the protection you are now receiving. Let go of fears and concerns and allow this wondrous healing to occur. Start to focus on things that bring joy to your life. Focus on all that you would love to be doing rather than worrying about what others think. I have that a lot. You are safe and eternally loved. Nothing can harm you except your own fears. So worrying more about yourself instead of external things. So fluorite.
Nice.
All right. Well, Velma's stone was brought to you today by Advanced Paranormal Services. Go to Advanced Paranormal Services. You can see what's going on with our upcoming investigations. You can look at our shop. Also, we have TikTok, YouTube. What other things do we have there? We've got lots of things going on. Anyway, Advanced Paranormal Services has brought to you Velma's stone. And we're now going to move on to Emmett's segment.
Okay, well, I haven't really been doing a whole heck of a lot this winter. I've been kind of laid up, especially the last couple of weeks. But what I have been doing is, as always, and this is something we don't touch on very often, but we plan to more in the future, is getting outside and looking up UFOs. And I did have 2 really nice sightings over the course of the winter, just from my own backyard. We'd be interested to know if any of you have had, legitimate sightings, not just maybe something you couldn't explain, but you know what I mean. It really and truly made the hair stand up on the back of your neck. So that's pretty much all I've been doing lately, is just trying to stay in tune and keep my eyes open. It seems like there's a lot of UFO news lately, and I don't just mean I don't mean these government commissions and reports in Congress and everything.
And the balloons.
The balloons, yeah. I'm talking about things like grassroots efforts like MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, which is composed of basically just citizens, just people like all of us, okay, keeping our eyes open, looking up and reporting these things when they come in. You can always get a hold of us, but really, if you want to get on Facebook, just about every state has a MUFON coordinator, places where you can send your reports, videos, audio if you get it. So, just stay tuned in, and I promise you, one of these days, we're going to have all the answers.
Oh, yeah, we will. So, can I tell you one of my UFO experiences?
Please do.
Well, I've only had one.
Well, then tell us the one.
I'll tell you the one. So it was in the late 1980s, early 90s. I lived in Cedar City. I was going to SUU, and I worked at the observatory. I was the observatory lab coordinator, and I was the assistant to the physics professor.
Cool.
I even got to teach a class for him one day when he was gone, which sounds really cool. I don't know that much about physics and astronomy. I learned a lot. It was kind of a test review day. So anyway, I digress. So I worked at the observatory, and we would go out there twice a week, I believe. One night was lab night for the university students. One night was like a public night. And I got to the point, I'm not this good anymore, but I got to the point where I could look up at the sky and tell you every constellation. I could tell you, oh, that one's coming up, that one's going down. I mean, I didn't even need to see the whole constellation. I got really, really good at constellations.
Nice.
And I just got in the habit of every time I was outside, like you said, I was looking up. And one night I'd gotten home from the grocery store, and I got out of the car, and what did I do? I looked up, because that's what I did. And I was just kind of looking, and it was the weirdest thing. It was probably 5 or 6 little dim circles, probably the size of quarters. And when you're talking to people about constellations, and when you're at the observatory, you measure things with handspans. Chuck, I'm sure you're familiar with that. You're like, see the moon and go down 5 handspans, and you see that star. And so to talk in that kind of language, this thing that I saw was probably the equivalent of 1 handspan, meaning I'm standing there, I'm looking up.
With your arm out and your hand wide so you can get your measurement.
So there was 5 or
Yeah,
6.
like 3-5 degrees maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
So there were little circles about the size of quarters, about 5 or 6 of them. They were in the shape of an iron, like when you iron clothes. I think it was just hovering there because I didn't see it come in from the periphery. I was looking at it, and it just moved.
All in unison.
All in unison, like it was one unit. And it wasn't, how they've got those lights when they're trying to get your attention, the big...
Spotlights.
The big, yeah,
Searchlights,
thank you. I'm like, I know there's a word for it. It wasn't one of those. And it just went
It was
from,
like way before drones and everything,
Yeah.
so it couldn't have been a drone either.
Exactly. And it was so smooth. It was like a puck going across one of those air hockey games. And it just...
And silent, right?
Completely silent.
Yep.
And it moved from, like the middle of the sky clear to the horizon in like a fraction of a second. It was really bizarre.
Yeah,
Wow.
you kind of know when something is acting differently than normal, than what you would expect out of it.
Right, because
Right.
when you look up at this, especially in what I was doing at the time, there are satellites. You can tell a satellite. You can tell the space station. You can tell
Airplanes.
asteroids. You can tell airplanes. There's things that you can tell.
Because size and movement and things,
Yeah.
register a certain way, and this registered out of that norm.
This was completely silent. The way it moved was just smoother than smooth. The distance it traveled was too fast for anything. I mean, it was literally... Now, were there aliens on it? I don't know. It was an unidentified flying object.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Cool.
There's my story.
Yeah,
And
well,
you saw it from an observatory, right?
No, this was actually in my driveway.
Oh, your driveway.
Yeah.
Wow.
Klaus talked to us a couple of weeks ago about something that he had seen. You remember that?
No, I don't actually.
Yeah, he had, I think he had something on his phone where it was something that he saw down in the Provo area. We were talking a little bit about UFOs and that kind of stuff, and he said, "Yeah, did you see this?"
I vaguely
There have
remember
been
the
several
conversation.
sightings, like in southern Utah Valley and, Utah Valley and southern Salt Lake Valley, of things like the last couple of years. It's been really active.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the area in which he lives. He's kind of in the west side of Provo.
Yep.
Yeah, and outside at this point is still pretty scary. Anything that has an outside venue, like when we went to Fort Douglas for our last investigation, we really, we walked outside to move from location to location there, but it wasn't like we could have a site out there. I think a few people went to the 9/11 memorial for just a few moments. And
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me tell you about the 9/11 memorial. I, with my unicorn brain, at one point during the evening referred to it as the 911 memorial because I'm an idiot. But in my defense, as soon as that
math
left
is commutative, right? Math is commutative.
I was like, there's a 9, a 1, and a 1 in there. It works. Yeah. As soon as I said it, I was like, take that back. Take that back. I can't unsay that.
But yeah, that, outside still is a little cold, so we're trying to look for a venue that gives us good opportunity to be inside. Maybe middle of April we can do something outside, and that's even a little chilly too, but...
Yeah, so we are still working on a venue. As far as residentials, the last time we podcasted, I had 2 that I was coordinating with the clients to pick a date, and we just haven't been able to coordinate dates. So we do have 2 in the works still. We're just trying to get those dates coordinated. So
it's been a little slower from the residential aspect, correct?
Yeah, and not because they haven't been coming in. We just haven't been able to get things scheduled. They'll schedule, and then we need to cancel it. Then we need to tweak it. Then you can't get a hold of them. And then, so as soon as we get those scheduled, we'll have...
Residentials are
2.
tough because, people have lives and stuff happens.
Yeah, there's still one. We've talked about this. It's been a long time since we've talked about this. I think we can bring it up again. But this lady called and, told me what's going on in her home. And she said, I sleep on the couch because she was having back problems or something. So, and from the couch, she could see her kitchen. And the way she described it, it sounded like Satan himself was holding court in her kitchen at night.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, we need to come out and see what's going on. She'd say, I can't have you come next week because we're going camping. She kept putting it off. And I thought, it can't be...
as bad as you're describing.
It can't be too bad if we can put off Satan's board meetings. Okay, whatever. So, yeah, residentials can be funny. All right.
So that's pretty much it for the business.
Yep. All right. Well, stay haunty, stay haunty, my spooky friends.
Have a great evening.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright by Advanced Paranormal Services.